Hello and welcome to our next tutorial. We're going to talk today about how to use the multi-track ability in Vegas and how to decide which videos are going to be viewed or not seen. And what do I mean by that? Well, if I take this clip that we had put up previously in our lesson and we put it underneath on the second video track here, and then we place our cursor right there, you notice what happened to our boating scene. It's not there. Where is it? Well, it's because the top scene is covering it up. And if you imagine looking from the top down onto our videos here, and imagine that this video is simply a thick piece of paper, if it's covering up what's underneath, obviously we're not going to see it. And so that's the way that I kind of visualize these tracks. Now, Sony itself explains that the videos come from the bottom up. I'm sure they know what they're talking about. They invented the software. But to me, it's just hard to visualize that way. I would rather think about it looking down. And if a video is not transparent, in other words, the opacity is 100%, then you're not going to see what's underneath. So to be able to see what's underneath, there are different methods of doing that. One thing that we need to learn about is called a composite video. A composite is two or more tracks being viewed at the same time. And here's a quick way to learn how to use opacity, which is the value of whether a track or anything is transparent or not. 100% opacity means that nothing else can be seen underneath it. We can adjust this by going up. See, my cursor is now changing to a little hand with arrows on it, and if I left click and drag that down, it changes the opacity, makes it more transparent, and look what happens up here. I have a composite of the two videos. I have the home, and it looks like it's in the water because I'm seeing the clip underneath of the water scene. And so you've learned how to do your first composite video, and that's an interesting effect all its own. And if I move this back up again, of course, we see that the bottom one disappears. Now, the same thing happens if I add a video underneath the second track. Let's try that. We'll add that underneath here. And you notice I still see my top track until I change the opacity. So I'm going to lower that again so it's more transparent. Let's lower it down even more. Now I see just a tiny bit of the top one, but I see my boating scene. Well, what happens if I lower the boating scene now, the opacity of that? And now we see a composite of three videos. I see a little bit of the house, I see the boat, and I now see the subway scene. And now we have a composite of three videos. Now that in itself is not too impressive because why would we want to see three scenes at once? Generally not, but we'll get into later on how important that is in our future lessons. Now we can add more tracks to this very easily. There are two different ways. We can go up here to insert, and then we can insert a video track, and you see what happens here. Another video track pops up. We can insert an audio track. We can also do the same by right-clicking down here on any of our tracks. We can insert a video track, duplicate it, or delete the track. One important thing when you have many tracks, it's a good idea to name them and use those tracks for specific purposes so you don't get confused in your editing. And I can do that by right-clicking and then renaming it. I could do, for instance, text 2 to keep track of it, and then click enter, and I have a nice label on this one. You can change those labels anytime you want. So that gives you a little bit idea on how Vegas views videos stacked on top of each other, which one is visible at any one time.